CNC Masterpiece right here on 105.3 The Fan, and that would be a wrap for Jake Ottinger. And a lot of people are saying it's definitely a wrap for the Stars. I'm going to get to that in just 1 second. In the first 7 minutes and 10 seconds, 3 goals allowed versus 2 saves for Ottinger before he got pulled. They brought Wedgwood in. Didn't really matter. The game was over. A lot of people are texting in that the team has quit. I want to talk about the fans, but also, Mike, you have pointed out it's not just the team that might have quit. The fans might be wrapping this season up, too.
When the tickets went on sale, the face value of the tickets were $175 in the upper bowl to get into Game 3 or Game 4. That was face value. They were eaten up in minutes, pretty much. Now, for tomorrow night's game, you can get tons of tickets in the upper bowl for easily under $100. And in the lower bowl, it is still pretty expensive, but there are plenty of tickets available for under $300 now.
Wow.
So if you do want to go to a conference final game,
Yeah.
most likely the Stars are going to lose. Most likely, you're not going to be as entertained as you thought you'd be a week ago.
Mike, this situation has come up 204 times in hockey history, and 4 times a team has come back from 3-0.
Okay. Well, then you can be part of history with Jamie Benn in the stands with you watching.
That's probably true.
For under $100 in the upper deck and for under $300 in the lower bowl. So tickets have come down already a lot.
I do have a question about what I did see last night.
Yep.
And that was, it was when the penalty was called, you saw, was it popcorn that was the first
And
thing that was
soda,
thrown?
I know.
I saw the first cup be thrown, and I was like, oh, that's not good. And I was in the middle of texting Adrian, and I just fast texted and was like, and it was just gibberish. Because then I wanted to get my phone out and record. I was like, I want to get a video of this. The video I have right now.
In the majors.
Add in the majors. The video I have right now, Kevin, most of the people are saying that's trash fans. That's garbage. That is no class fans. And in my history of being at games in DFW, I've never seen anything like that. We don't throw beer on babies. That's Toronto. All right.
Yeah.
Toronto does that.
Right.
But that was a very upset group that spent a lot of money to get those seats. And they were frustrated that you came back 0-2 and started off like you didn't even want to play. So I just was curious on y'all's feeling on what they were doing, the fans were doing that. Because I was actually at one point, I was like, this is not a safe environment anymore.
I tried to start to distinguish the way I use these words, because I would usually be like, those are trash fans. I will say that was trash behavior by the fans. And I've tried to distinguish, because we all have things that we look back on and you're like, what the hell was I thinking? But that is not acceptable or anything like that. We talk about that.
I'm with you. It's like anger and rage took over. Jamie Benn, his anger took over.
And it got him booted from the game.
And it was almost like the fans followed suit after a while. They're like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to lose it too.
And somebody just texted in. They were at the game as well. And when Vegas came out for the third period, someone threw popcorn on their goalie in the tunnel too. Not okay.
Mm-hmm. I've never seen them, they had 21 seconds left in the second period.
Yeah, and they
just canceled it and said, everybody go to your locker room.
It's crazy then that somebody would continue going into the third period with that in mind. I think about this all the time. I know people have varying degrees about what you should be able to say in the stands. I personally think as long as you don't get personal or use any slurs or anything like that, I think you should be able to be like, hey, you suck. A
10-year-old in front of me was cussing. It was hilarious.
Which is amazing. But I think that should be acceptable. But, once you go beyond that, that's problematic. But once you start infringing on the game surface, you have to know, or other people around you, you have to know that's not okay.
Yeah, it's really embarrassing, too. And I thought Ray Ferraro did it really well on ESPN. He said, you just paid $15 for popcorn and you're throwing it on their goaltender. And, really? You're getting pumped 4-0? You think that really phases them? They're burying you right now.
Oh,
and I've been a part of one game before where that's happened. Back in college, we had a big rival game against Minnesota. But much different circumstances where our player got drugged down from behind the net and they ended up scoring an OT goal to win. So obviously everybody was very upset. But you can imagine this is 20-year-olds and collegiate kids, college kids that are obviously, a little
Ready
under
to-
the
ready to
influence
fight, yeah.
and firing stuff at the ice. Obviously, much different circumstances where that game or the play kind of cost you the game. Still trash behavior, and you shouldn't do that. But this is like it's we're 20 minutes into the ball game here. What are we doing?
Well, and I don't remember which player it was. Is Hog? Maybe I can't remember. Huh?
Haig.
Yeah, I think it was him. As he was coming off the ice, because I think he was one of the first off the ice in that period. He's laughing and pointing at everybody, and that I don't think that helped either. Because at that point, now the fans are like, not only are you kicking us in the D right now, you're also stomping and laughing while you're doing it. That's not fun.
And we've talked about that show Beef in the past. If you haven't seen it on Netflix, we both really liked it. Is when someone engages opposite of you, it feels like everybody's IQ drops and you get more aggressive. Like, I know I do. Is like if you honk at somebody and you feel like you're justified and they honk back, then sometimes it feels like rules fly out the window, and reasonably you'd be like, you're an idiot, and move on with your life. And like, so when you see that Vegas player laughing at you and you're like, okay, well, what can I do next? Which is not responsible.
I will say this, so much Stars talk for a team down 0-3. That's why I didn't jump on the bandwagon before, just to be let down again by my team. I had a blast watching the first two series. Right now it is not good, and you don't always win, but that's part of being a fan, is supporting and enjoying the bads or enjoying the goods. You're gonna get bads, but when you find 2011, we finally got Dirk's championship, right? The most glorious thing I've ever seen across the FW. It was awesome.
I believe since the year 2000, since after that season, this is the third time the Stars have been in the Western Conference Finals. 2008, the loss to the Red Wings. You beat Vegas in 20, and now this series. Like,
it doesn't happen a lot.
I know, exactly. And so I hear what you're saying. I'm mad that they lost. Clearly, we saw the fandom was. Now we see people are frustrated and everything like that. But this was just the second time, along with 2020, in the last 15 seasons you had been this far. So I don't want to say this is why you shouldn't get involved. It sucks that they're going to lose, probably, but this has been a hell of a run.
Yeah, I mean, look at Toronto. They haven't been to one in 50 years.
Yeah.
And talk about how hungry that market is. And I said it over the weekend a couple times. I'm like, this is when it's time to enjoy it. Like, you do not get to a Western Conference Final every year. This is a really hard trophy to win. Like, it's really fun to watch. Obviously, it has not been the best showing, but you got to enjoy these moments sometimes with this team because, man, it's kind of incredible what they've done in the last 5 years. We can be honest. This was a mediocre team for a while. And this was the first year that they're making some strides in the right direction where they really solidified themselves as a nice team.
Joey, I like what you're saying because here's my question. And I base it off of the Rangers. And I know, we have a short show today and we'll talk way more tomorrow. The Rangers might not be an up-and-coming team because they bought so many veterans. It doesn't mean the Rangers aren't going to be good next year or the year after, but you have to start looking at what they did to become good this year. Do you guys still feel like the Stars are an up-and-coming team? This is just the start of something and you have to go through this pain of the Western Conference Finals? Like,
This team is very close to being done.
See, I don't.
But they have a core that's very young.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't
the Ben
think
era.
that.
It's interesting.
Yeah, the Ben era is almost done, but I would argue that's not the worst thing in the world because in Sagan and Ben, I know that people get mad about this, you have been carrying albatross contracts for a while. And I think you can look back at the 17 draft, right? And say, all right, so we're just 6 years removed from the 17 draft that loaded you up with talent. And I know it's more to it than just those three guys, but I think you still have plenty of time with this team, but be careful because the last time you had plenty of time with this team, you lost in the playoffs and you did not get back to that height ever. Well, in that window.
Yeah, man. There's always next year, right? Is that what you want me to roll out there, Mike?
I just think that, I guess looking at teams in a certain way, when we saw the Astros, let's say in 2015, push the Rangers, I knew as a baseball guy, this is a team ready to blossom, and they're going to be around for a little bit. And they did add, obviously, Verlander, and at one time, Garrett Cole and Zach Greinke, but you saw the core of a team going, oh, they're going to be a problem for a while.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, I get the Stars are most likely going to lose tomorrow and the season's going to come to an end. But as a if you're a casual fan, it sounded like it was a casual fan who doesn't care too much about hockey and didn't want to jump on the bandwagon because they weren't going to win it all. Is it a good time to jump on going, no, this is the Houston Astros of 2015 that doesn't mean they're going to win in 16, but they are going to be around now for a good 5 years as a true Stanley Cup contender.
I think that's the case.
Ben, I mean, Heiskanen, Robertson, and Otter, they're going to be there for a long time, right? Like that's 10 years.
Yes.
So that is there. It's whether or not Jim Nill can continue to build around that and the patience of the ownership to let him continue to do that.
In that group as well.
I'm not sure what DeBoer's future is here. Like, I mean, look at his history. He has a 3-year run. It's about 3 years with every team. He gets them pretty deep into the playoffs all the time, but doesn't win. And so I'm kind of curious where that, like, what his history is going to be here, because the Stars have been rolling through coaches lately, in the last few years. So that's another thing that, like, you don't want to do that too much, but also I think one thing, Kevin, we walked into last night this series thinking, man, DeBoer knows this team very well. And now it looks like they know everything DeBoer is wants to do. Right. It's like it felt like they were reading all the players' minds throughout that game last night. So that was rough to see too. So I am kind of curious what the build is going to be like. But I mean, hell, DeBoer was already talking about off-season deep dives before last night's game.
Yeah, let's get that deep dive done with overtime and shootouts.
Yeah.
Let's get that done for sure.